Hi, I'm Mort Cooper, your host on Change Your Voice, Change Your Life. In studio with me is Dr. John Curtis, who has come up with the title of the program, and it's called
Voice Insanity.
Why do you name the subtitle of the program Voice Insanity?
Well, you know, I don't know if you remember the book or the movie One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Mm-hmm.
You're sort of presiding over your own cuckoo's nest in a way. What do you think about it? Because you have one view that seems to differ from the entire medical pharmaceutical establishment. The whole profession has a different view than you do.
In the world.
In the world. And your view is that voice breakdowns, especially spasmodic dysphonia, the strangled voice, is really a result of wear and tear or mechanical breakdown. The medical view is that it's due to acid reflux, it's due to neurological problems that may be connected with the basal ganglia, it could be any number of things. Why is your view so diametrically opposed to the medical view?
A clinical experience. I admire people who ask questions, who challenge. Feynman, I think he was a noted scientist, wrote a book, and he's one of many I admire. Semmelweis in 1848, I admire. People are always asking their guests on programs, what books do you read and whom do you admire and so forth. I admire certain people in past years, Socrates, an unexamined life is not worth living. My view from that is an unexamined voice is not worth having. Semmelweis in 1848 was of the view that the horrendous number of deaths in childbirth was due to a simple fact that the physicians were not washing their hands, and they were doing autopsy and then doing childbirth care. It turns out that Semmelweis was not listened to from 1848 to 1865, and he ended up in an insane asylum put there by those close to him. He died a very horrible life. It was 40 years later that Semmelweis's view became the paradigm for medicine, and he's honored by statutes across the world. But One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, maybe I am out to lunch, or is the medical community out to lunch?
Isn't it, that's what it means to be insane, is that your view does not match the totality of views out there in the community, and there's enormous pressure on people whose views differ from that of the majority to conform. Why and how have you become this nonconformist?
I go back to childhood, sitting in classes and absorbing in public school and realizing that nothing seemed worthwhile. It was all rote learning, and I never had any interest in school. I hated school with a passion. I didn't ask questions because I saw what happens when kids ask questions in class. I grew up right through high school basically invisible. I had three pals. If there are four of us, if you mentioned there was a fourth one, you were a magician because I didn't exist. I made myself invisible. And I found it entertaining that teachers would ask for questions, but they would punish kids who asked for information and facts, embarrassing the teacher or the professor. I found that later on in college. And I always loved to ask, what is a fact? When I made it out of high school and luckily got a scholarship to college, Brooklyn College, and I sat in classes at this outfit, and I was impressed with the fact that the professors there wanted questions and meant they wanted questions. Brooklyn College was considered the poor man's Harvard. I didn't know that. But there was so much brightness there. You can see it in the eyes, you can hear it in the questions. It was an amazing world that opened my mind to asking why, what is a fact, and not accepting what is, and challenging and questioning. And the professors supported that.
Because your profession seems to be saying that that a chair is a table and a table is a chair, it's basically telling you, and we're talking about the whole body of scientific community that is closely connected with your profession, of practitioners who apply your work, and those individuals who report in those scientific journals that disseminate that information, and those newspapers that take that scientific information through their science writers, health writers, and report it. For instance, I read an interesting piece in the New York Times a while back, earlier, about a year ago, and actually March of 2003, that indicated that Botox, this was written by a fellow by the name of, I think it was O'Neill.
Donald O'Neill Jr.
Yeah.
March 2nd, year 2003.
He said that Botox was giving patients with spastic vocal cords back their voices. That was a very powerful statement.
It is. Unfortunately, it's not true. He didn't tell you what kind of voices these individuals are getting. You've termed it the Botox voice. You can describe what the Botox voice is, Dr. Curtis.
Well, that Botox voice is it's not an appealing voice. It's really quite a polluted voice, but it really has those combination of the strangled strains to it with that breathiness that you get from the Botox injections. But what I find interesting is
it's a roller coaster ride.
That the amount of pressure on the outside through all of these things, I've mentioned just a few of them. I mentioned the journalistic standards that are out there reporting these things in the newspaper as if they were facts. The scientific journals and one of the leading research institutions in the country that has been recently discussed by a Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist named David Willman, called the National Institutes of Health. It's now been exposed by Willman and others that these same scientists are on the payroll of major pharmaceutical companies while they're engaged in their government scientific objective jobs. And the head of the National Institutes of Health was asked if that troubles her, that they're double dipping and on two payrolls simultaneously. She said, our employees have the highest level of integrity.
I don't question their integrity. I just question their ability to be objective. I'm not questioning their integrity. Temptation is mighty interesting. Lynn Taggart, who wrote a book, What Your Doctors Don't Tell You, a very well qualified writer, writing for top organizations, noted that drug studies influence, and drug money influence the outcome of drug studies. Lynn Payer, who was a feature writer for the New York Times, freelancer, I believe, indicated the same thing, and she says that the medical community and drug companies make diseases out of non-diseases. I think they've made a disease and a neurological problem out of the strangled voice, making it into a medical problem. It's not a medical problem that I find. There are those who say, how can I decide what is medical or not? I certainly cannot change a neurological problem.
Yeah.
And anybody who tells you that you can talk somebody out of Lou Gehrig's disease, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, needs to have his head examined. But
isn't it a difficult position to be in? Wouldn't it be easier if you just basically packed up and moved to Palm Desert? And,
what would I do?
And got a bag of golf
What would
clubs?
I do, Dr.
You'd
Curtis?
play golf.
I don't play
and
golf.
You wouldn't. Well, you'd
I
learn,
like
you'd learn to play
basketball.
golf.
I played it for 40 years.
Well, you'd learn to
I
play
like the
golf.
challenge.
You
No,
use the cart. You can
I tried it
retire,
one time
go
when
out,
I was in the
go out to
service at
pasture.
22 and 23 in Germany, and it was the most boring experience I've ever had in my life. I swore off it. I swore off drinking.
But I mean,
I swore off various things because I don't find them relevant to my life.
One man against an entire establishment with all of the scientific institutions that are connected. They're saying that if a patient who presents to you with a strangled voice simply takes either reflux drugs or they get Botox injections, that it is 99% effective in reversing their voice condition and returning them with their natural voice. Is that your experience in your clinical practice?
No, it's so far from it. It's laughable. But let me go back and give you another instance. I was developing an answer, a cure for spasmodic dysphonia by 1970. A gentleman, a very fine gentleman, humanitarian, compassionate, well-intentioned Herb Dito of San Francisco, an ear, nose, and throat doctor, came up with a surgical procedure and personally told me, with Tom Shipp, an assistant of his at that time, and Chris Izdebski. Tom Shipp was at Stanford University with me, and Chris Izdebski did a study for me, and he was so impressed with my results, which was published in the #1 journal in the field in 1974, a 98% success ratio with bad raspy voices and different types of voices, peer-reviewed. They told me that they had 100% success with spasmodic dysphonia. They didn't need any voice rehabilitation. I was taken with that, and so I referred patients who were working with me, making gradual progress, but no rocket science progress, and showing that there is a way to find a cure. And I had a couple of cures. Dito's procedure prevailed from the early 70s for about 20 years as a state-of-the-art treatment of choice. And the American Speech and Hearing Association, in its website in 1994, it's called the ASHA, the American Speech and Hearing SD, Spasmodic Dysphonic Fact Sheet, indicates that 2/3 of those patients treated by surgery are worse off after the procedure than before. So the 100% figure he gave me did not reflect very well in follow-ups. But aside from that, I wrote in the International Association of Logopedics in 1980, in peer review.
Logopedics and phoniatry?
It's voice and speech. It's international, great prestigious international journal, that the Dito surgery was failing. It took another 14 years before the American Speech and Hearing Association put fact to what I knew by 1980. And gradually over the years I built up a whole series of cases proving that SD is curable by non-medical intervention. If it's curable by non-medical intervention, and it's considered to be neurological dystonia and a basal ganglia problem, then I am walking on water. And I don't believe I'm walking on water. What I'm finding is that the condition is not a medical problem. People ask me, how can you decide what is medical or not? Because I cannot change a medical problem. I can't change a dystonia, a neurological problem, a basal ganglia problem, or any of those problems. What I am showing is that spasmodic dysphonia is not a medical problem from my experience. Now the medics are saying it is, and people are saying, how dare you challenge and question the medical paradigm? And my answer is the medical paradigm has never had one single cure since Straub first described the condition as nervous hoarseness in 1871. A few years later it was called spastic dysphonia, now it's called spasmodic dysphonia, because it's my view that the paradigm in medicine is wrong. It's on the wrong road. It's not a matter of personalities, it's a matter of understanding that spasmodic dysphonia is due to the fact that you're talking in the lower throat, and they're calling it a dystonia, and you can't change it, and I can change it within a period of minutes and initial evaluation. Somebody is wrong, and my cures are on the record. They involve 15 cures of patients associated with UCLA Medical Center. They're top ear, nose, and throat people. Their chairperson, Dr. Paul Ward, formerly there, now Dr. Gerald Burke, fine humanitarians, great compassionate people, highly experienced people who are not of the view that the medical paradigm is wrong. And I am of the view it's wrong. You ask me, how can I remain one against the entire world? Well, the answer is Socrates preferred to take the hemlock.
Well, they've asked
I don't prefer to take the hemlock.
They've asked you to recant.
Yes.
And if you change your evil ways, by the way, it's evil to present a cure because your national association says there are no cures.
Yes.
I believe that they wrote that in a memo back in 1994.
Yeah, they have that on the American Speech and Hearing Association fact sheet.
They said that
reinforced that in
spasmodic
2001,
dysphonia
and they
is not
ignore
curable.
cures. They know about cures, but the word cure is a dirty word.
Now, who told them back in '94? Who are the sources to their statement on the website that there were no cures for spasmodic dysphonia?
That's a very interesting question answered this way. Jerry Logerman, who is the president of the American Speech and Hearing Association, in writing told